So you want to read Invincible, and you're wondering, what besides the main series should I check out? Well, I've got a video for you.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome to my video on Invincible. I haven't talked about Invincible on the channel before, but feels like now's the time. So Invincible is a long-running comic at Image Comics through Skybound, written by Robert Kirkman, and was originally with Corey Walker on art, and then eventually Ryan Ottley, who wrote pretty consistently throughout the run. And it's one of the most well-regarded creator-owned books for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is it has a beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't extend beyond it. There's never been a sequel series to it. And it's pretty self-contained, and it's pretty nice to break out of the Marvel and DC sphere in order to read something. And because of the recent animated series, a lot more people have been reading the comic, and I think, you know, it's a good time to talk about it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the Invincible Compendiums, because there are so many formats you can get the main Invincible series in. There's the original trades, there's the big hardcovers, there's the library hardcovers, there's the compendiums, which I'll talk about. And then there's even now like manga-sized volumes. You can get Invincible a lot of places. You know what you can't get in those formats? Invincible Universe, or other characters within this universe. Because the Invincible Universe, as much as people do talk about how the core series run is very straightforward and you don't need any side material, there's also side material. So I think we should go over it. Let's talk about it. And I think it'll be a fun time. So if you enjoy these type of videos, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. Hit the hype button if it's available down there to you. But let's talk about the core Invincible series before we talk about the spin-offs. So Invincible, of course, if you need introduction to the series, it is about Mark Grayson, who as a teenager starts to develop superpowers, and he eventually learns that his dad is a superhero. And because of that, they start training together, and he starts to become a superhero of his own, known as Invincible. It does spiral out of control pretty quickly from there. This is not your typical superhero story, even if it's kind of set up as such. And I do highly recommend it. It does have a mature content rating. It's rated teen plus. It is very violent. There is, let's see if I can open a page without getting a spoiler or intense violence, but it does get, that's not too bad. It does get pretty brutal, especially as the series goes along. The carnage and violence is something it's known for, but I think the heart of the characters is the important part here. The thing I do like about Invincible is it does take a lot of the sort of superhero tropes we're used to, but changes them, makes them different, goes in different directions. And I love the way the series develops. Mark, as a character, ages throughout the comic. He grows and changes along with the characters and world around him, and I think that it's made for a lasting impact in the comics industry. And it's also been a good as an adaptation. I think the anime adaptation has been pretty solid because they've been, you know, clipping through the series at a pretty good pace so far, and I've been quite enjoying it. The fun part is that as an adaptation, it does feel like since Kirkman's involved with the adaptation, he's kind of doing a second pass on the series. Some of the stuff that either didn't age well or, you know, could have been done differently with the power of hindsight are kind of covered here a little bit better, I think, in the show sometimes in the comic. But I do think both are valid, right? I think the comic itself still holds up incredibly well overall, but I think the show actually brings a lot as well. I do wish the show could maybe spend a little bit less on its voice cast and a little bit more on the animation for dialogue scenes, but when they do have a great action sequence, it's a really great action sequence. So in terms of buying it, like I said, it's in so many formats. The ones I picked were the compendiums. These are these large paperback volumes. The price point has changed and shifted over the years, but they do regularly go on sale. You can get them for a pretty decent price. And what does each of these contain? Well, nicely, I got it right here. So this has issues 0 through 47 of Invincible, plus the Invincible story from the Image Comics Summer Special. And then book 2 here will contain issues 48 to 96, plus the Invincible Returns one-shot, and the Astounding Wolf-Man crossover issue. More about him in a little bit. And then the final volume contains issues 97 through 144 of the series. And that's the thing that's pretty nice, is it ends at 144. and it just ends. They haven't done a sequel, and I don't think there ever will be a sequel. I think Kirkman's talked about how he has no plans to continue the story beyond its initial run, which is pretty cool. Now, is there anything missing? Well, the big thing that people will point to was Marvel Team Up number 14, which featured a team up with Spider-Man and Invincible. This is a special deal between Marvel and Image and Skybound and Kirkman, and this is a canon issue. There's an arc where Invincible is popping through universes, and he pops into the Marvel universe. That's when this takes place. If you're reading it, you won't notice that it's not in your reading order. It's not too noticeable, but it does happen during the first compendium. And it's pretty nice that, it is in canon to Invincible and Spider-Man. So I think it's a really fun crossover. The thing is, if you want to get this, they just reprinted it recently, which it's now kind of available in single issue form. And then there's also going to be a hardcover omnibus edition of Invincible, which is basically following the contents of these 3 compendiums. The first one of those, in its first printing, will contain Marvel Team Up 14. Subsequent printings won't. So if you haven't bought Invincible yet and you're okay going for big hardcovers, you could do that. For me, I thought, I've already got the compendiums. I'm already happy with the compendiums. So I got my local comic shop to get me the single issue of the Marvel Team Up. So that way I can just have this as an aside. And I kind of like having it like this. I also got the Todd McFarlane variant cover because I thought it was fun that Todd drew Spider-Man for the first time officially in a while. So anyways, this is not included. It's not super necessity, but do be aware that the omnibus edition will have the Marvel Team Up, but none of the other editions do. So, I think if you have Invincible, I don't know if you necessarily need to rebuy it unless you really want the omnibus hardcover, but maybe go track down a single issue of the reprint for you there. But that's not where Invincible ends. This is the core series. You can read 0 to 144 without inserting anything into your reading order. And I actually recommend that's the best way to do it. And then if you're like, oh, I really like the Invincible Universe, I want to see more from it, what else you got for me? That's what we'll talk about in the next part of the video. So let's talk about the Invincible Universe Compendium 1, which I'm not sure why it's called Compendium 1. It is a complete collection of all these side material. So as you can see with Adam Eve on the cover, you can kind of get the idea about what's contained within this. So you can see on the spine, you got Invincible Universe, and this contains all of the spin-off books, because there was actually quite a few. Invincible Presents Adam Eve is a 2-issue series. That's the origin of Adam Eve, which they actually did adapt this for a special episode of the animated series. I think it's probably the single best episode of the Invincible animated series. There's also Invincible Presents Adam Eve and Rex Splode, which is a 3-issue series of the origin of Rex Splode and also the origin of their relationship. We have Guarding the Globe 1-6 and Guarding the Globe Volume 2 1-6, which is 12 issues about the Guardians of the Globe, which is a superhero team within the Invincible Universe. And then there's Invincible Universe 1 through 12. And so basically what you're getting in here is additional series and additional side stories for the characters. And they do reference these from time to time in the main Invincible book. Like, I think Adam Eve's origin is referenced as, like, go read Invincible Presents Adam Eve. And so this is all kind of stuff that you can add to your Invincible experience. It's not what I would call essential. And, I don't even love all of it, but I think it's kind of nice to have a side book because there's a ton of characters in the Invincible Universe that kind of just pop in and pop out and don't get a ton of depth. But the Invincible Universe side books kind of give you that depth, and I think that's super fun. So, in terms of reading order, could you insert it into a reading order based on publication dates? Absolutely. I do recommend, though, you read Invincible and decide you want more, then pick this up and give it a read cover to cover, and then you kind of can fill in the gaps yourself in terms of continuity. I think that's kind of one of the best things that Invincible has going for it, is that you don't really need to read a ton of other books. It's all pretty self-contained. That being said, Invincible did have a crossover with another book. The Astounding Wolf-Man, who was also created by Robert Kirkman and was running alongside Invincible. This was not as loved of a series and not as long running. It was Robert Kirkman, Jason Howard, and Cliff Rathburn. And this Compendium 1 is the entire Astounding Wolf-Man comic. Now, if you're reading just Invincible, you will notice that there's a crossover with a title called Astounding Wolf-Man. Invincible 57 and Astounding Wolf-Man issue 11 are a 2-part crossover. And you will also see Wolf-Man, as well as some of the characters from his run, appear later in Invincible after this series was canceled. And we did have a cameo of Wolf-Man in Season 3 of the TV show. So Wolf-Man is the story of a man who gets the werewolf curse and decides to become a superhero with it. It's a very interesting book because it kind of goes off kilter pretty quickly, like a lot of Kirkman's work does. It kind of sets up a status quo and then immediately shifts it, about 6-ish issues in. I actually really like this book. I'm one of the few. This one, I don't know, it gets a lot of hate online. I can see where people that have problems with it. I might just be a big enough fan of werewolves that I just enjoy the storytelling, but I actually do like this comic quite a bit. So, I'd say always read it for yourself. Definitely I'm not one of the few people that goes out there and goes, yeah, I actually really like this book, because I do. Yeah, just a lot of people do, but it is kind of interesting, and it is in the Invincible universe. And there's actually another hero that's in that same universe. That would be Tech Jacket. Now, Tech Jacket's gone through a few different creatives. Robert Kirkman started it off, but I think once it moved on to a different author, which I actually started to enjoy it more. So it started out with Kirkman writing, and then starting in issue 9 or chapter 9 of the book, Joe Keating took over, and I thought that's when the book really got interesting. Just like Invincible, Tech Jacket actually is a character who starts young, but actually is allowed to grow and change over time. The entire series is, again, in this Compendium volume, which is Tech Jacket 1 to 8, Tech Jacket Diddle 1 to 3, and then Tech Jacket 1 to 12. And this is fun. It's space sci-fi adventures. This kid gets bonded to a war armor known as the Tech Jacket that has all kinds of crazy powers. He has to learn how to deal with it and his family dynamics. It's very fun. I quite enjoyed this. I ended up reading this super quick because of how fun and how light and adventurous it was. And it was kind of nice for an Invincible Universe title to not get depressing at some point. It actually stayed fun throughout. So I do highly recommend this as well. And when it comes to all these books, like I said, you read Invincible and decide you want more. You read Invincible Universe, you want more. You got Wolf-Man and Tech Jacket. But there are some other spin-off titles for Invincible that I should mention. So not yet in Compendium is Battle Beast. Now, Battle Beast is a character who appeared in the original Invincible comic, but really got notoriety because they put him into the animated series, and he was voiced by Michael Dorn. And then everybody's like, oh, Battle Beast is amazing. And so Kirkman and Otley decided to come and do a Battle Beast comic that is very violent, but so much fun. Basically, Battle Beast is on a mission to go, you know what? I'm tired of living and winning every fight I'm in. Someone's got to kill me eventually, right? And it's awesome. It's incredible. The action's incredible. The artwork is amazing. And I think, honestly, the story progression has been really fun. So far, there's one volume out in trade paperback. They just started the second volume in print. It hasn't hit Compendium because it's brand new. This is out there. There's also a couple other books in the Invincible universe, that being Brit and Capes. Now, Brit is a pretty prominent character in the main Invincible book as part of the Guardians of the Globe in particular. And he had a 3-volume series. And then Capes, I believe, was 1 volume or 2 volumes. They've been reprinting it recently. These might eventually get a compendium. Tech Jacket and Wolf-Man got compendiums. I think Brit probably will get a compendium. And I don't know if Capes is long enough to get its own, but it's possible. But there's just some more stuff out there for those that love the Invincible universe. And I do like a splash page like this in the back of the Battle Beast trade that goes, hey, here's all the other titles in a nice, consistent format. So, yeah, there's quite a bit to the Invincible universe beyond just here's the main comic and here's the show. And I think it's kind of fun to explore it. And I got to say that I'm hoping they continue the compendiums because I think people getting just a big, thick paperback with an entire series will make them check it out more than just a bunch of smaller volumes. Like, it also does help the first volume of Battle Beast is, $17 for 6 issues. That's pretty nice. But, I think when you can tell people, hey, for $40, you can get the entirety of Tech Jacket. I think that's a really appealing deal, and I'm glad to see they're expanding the Invincible compendiums beyond just the main book. So that's all 6 Invincible compendiums explained easily. I do love the way these look on a shelf, right? I do love the consistency to just here's the logo for the book. And yeah, these don't need to be labeled Compendium 1, each of these, because each of these are only a single volume. but it does look nice and consistent down at the bottom. I remember there was, I think it was one of those, a few of the Spawn complete collections have like the logo of the character in place of the number, but I think having all this does look very nice. And I hope that, again, we get Brit, we get Capes, and eventually Battle Beast will get one of these as well, because I think, again, having big, thick paperbacks at a reasonable price value will get people to read comics. It's an entry point for sure. And definitely when I was like, oh, I want to read Invincible, I just picked up this. This is the best price per value that you can get for Invincible. There's other formats for those that like it, but the value, you can't beat the value on the compendiums for sure. And also, I do want to say, spine-wise, you know, because people talk about like, oh, that's a big, thick paperback. How's the spine holding up? Pretty dang good. I've read this entire book. I think I've gone through it a couple times, even at this point, and it's still holding strong. All these books hold strong, and that's always nice to see as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. This was just kind of a simple, like, here's some info on the Invincible Compendiums, because I like this format, and I want to see it continue. And I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe and notification bell if you haven't already. Stay tuned. There's definitely more comic videos on the channel coming up. If you want to keep up and continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. If you want to get perks like early access to videos, you can join as a channel member to get special perks. Let's give some special shout outs to some of our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including these Captain tier members: Spin-54, Forever1000, Master Ben 95, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquence, Rogue Leader 2448, Mr. Smelly Potato, Alt Mode Archive, Alice James, Taran Thomas, Fernando Pereira, Common Jojo, Mike Hazel, Platinum Angel, and Zabimaru 202. Bonus shout out to Simple OS for joining at Commander tier. Thank you all for supporting this channel, viewers and channel members alike. If you so wish, you can find me on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media at DarkClaw643, and you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, hey, I may just be a YouTuber talking about comics. That doesn't mean I'm not